first of all, like, no one has it figured out. You're good. No one has it figured out. You'll be fine.
That's what I'm telling myself. So
Well, it's true though. So it's like you don't even have to lie to yourself. Like once you realize that no one has it figured out, it takes away this feeling of guilt or judgment or concern that you don't have it figured out. Because I tell you, I think, and the problem is you should never have figured it out. Because if you figured it out, that means you've plateaued. And if you figured it out and you've plateaued, then you're not growing, and that's not the point of life. So, anywho.
amen. There's the podcast for today, honestly. That's all I need to hear.
Good. Now I can go take my vitamins. No, it's so
All
funny.
right, have a great day. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. It's Ashley, and today I'm joined by someone who literally does it all, including making time for this podcast. Christina Unkel is here with me today, president and GM of the Tampa Bay Sun, where she built and led the club through a historic inaugural season, resulting in the first ever USL Super League Championship title.
Hey.
Congratulations. And besides drinking tequila out of trophies, Christina is
I wish it was tequila. I promise you it wasn't. I think they threw like 6 different kinds of beer products in there. Shout out to Pepin for the beer products, but still not mixed.
Christina is a distinguished attorney, broadcaster, globally recognized soccer analyst, former FIFA referee, athlete, entrepreneur, mom, so much more, but no one has time for this 15-minute introduction.
Boo.
She's someone I deeply respect and look up to, not just for what she has accomplished, but also the way that she keeps showing up, seeing opportunities, and going after it. Her mindset and leadership continues to inspire me. Truly honored to share this space with her today. Christina, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I've loved your podcast since, oh gosh, day one was what, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
4 years ago?
over 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that. And it was like, I know a bunch of people started podcasting, but I just loved it for you because of like who you are and how you think and, you know, how introspective you are. I loved it because you are one of those people that make me pause. There's not many people that make me pause. I'm like in a million miles to go. And then there's people like you that you just pause to listen to. So thank you for this podcast and bringing what you guys bring to the table and having me on.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yes. Still out here. If it's been a minute, a very long minute, I feel like we should be running hills or doing some kind of agility workout together. You remind me that it is always training season. My first question for you, because you just recently missed a sprint triathlon, you were a little busy.
It's like the only thing for me, and go figure, I ended up not doing it. And I was like, I'm not going to cancel this. I'm not going to cancel this. And go figure, everything that wasn't for me took me away, and I canceled my own thing.
So, first question is, what's next? What are you training for right now?
Well, I have to reschedule whatever that is. So if anyone has any kind of shout outs, would be my first ever triathlon. I always used to laugh at people who used to do any marathons or triathlons. I'm like, you're paying to run when you could just run. But I think ultimately, right, especially when you stepped off the professional field and, you know, either your goals or your drives were to keep up with the professional athletes, the best in the world. They kept getting younger. I kept getting older, right? They were all in their early 20s. I'm like, no, I'm in my 30s now. So that whole training thing changed quite a bit. But like to just set a goal and I think kind of just to carve out time for yourself. It's so easy. Everyone says it all the time. It's not selfish. It's self-care, yada, yada, yada. But it's easier said than done. I think I speak about a lot of things that I'm not very good at doing myself. And I always try to tell people it's not a place of mastery. It's a place of journey. So for me, if anyone has any kind of shout outs for like the one I was going to do was in St. Pete and it was going to be like a good intro one, right? Like I'm not going to be the first one jumping into the water because I don't need to be kicked in the head, right? Like it was going to be the one like feeling out the slopes, like figuring out the transitions and just getting it underneath me until I start getting competitive because eventually I would turn competitive. I think that's one thing I fear about doing these things is like, you know, you always find that person in front of you. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to beat that person. And then you find the other one. You're like, I do it on the legacy trail. It's so bad. I'll be biking. And then I'm like, I'm going to get that person. And then especially if they're older than me, I'm like, oh, they can't crush me. And then they're like flying by me. And I'm like, no, the old lady got me. It was like the days in Scorch, right? You used to go in and you're like, she's using 20s. I'll use 30s. And then you're like, you can only use 5s. So
yeah, exactly. And then you get injured and then you get surgery. And then, yeah, once it starts, it doesn't stop.
Mm-mm.
That's
Mm-mm.
yeah. Well, I'll keep you posted if I hear anything. I don't know about for me
Yeah,
jumping in the water. Not a strong swimmer, but an area of improvement. So maybe it will
got it.
become a thing.
I think people would be surprised on the swimming because I lost track the first time I went out to do open water swim, and I did the Olympic distance without realizing it. So, like, I think you would be surprised
Of course
on a
you did.
sprint triathlon. Like, it's very, very short. I forgot what it was. Like, I always get kilometers, meters, and miles mixed up. So, which is why I just gave up. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this Garmin watch is supposed to help me, but I'm just going to ignore it and just go to the White House and then swim back.
So I was thinking about this conversation today, and I was listening to one of your episodes on the Soccer Podcast USA,
Yeah, which
which
we're changing the names if
you
you
are.
have. We are, and it's funny because like our producers, like it sounds like two like just older guys talking about soccer, and it's like the complete opposite of that. Like that's the feedback they've been getting. And I was like, well, funny enough, you two were the one who named it. So I love my two producers from England. But yeah, so we're Lori and I are taking different names from it because we're kind of not like sticking to the theme. So we're just kind of going rogue.
I was just
But
gonna
that
say that was my point. I love how effortless and casual and fun and light the back and forth that you have with Lori and the guests that you have on. It's just it's fun and it makes you feel like you're literally just in the room. And I appreciate that kind of authenticity and what you bring. It's just like you're just showing up and you're going for
oh,
it.
we're just showing up. Lori is as busy, if not busier than I. We were with it together for the 20, it was like postponed because of COVID. So I think it ended up being 2022 Women's Euros. And we were working on ESPN. And we had like Emma Hayes with us and Julie Foudy and Steffi Jones and, Danielle and Slayton with us. And it's like, we literally, because the timing of the tournament was perfect, we'd wake up, we'd work out, we'd go do TV, we'd come back, we'd all check our emails, we'd go to dinner, and then we'd all buy bottles of wine and be around the fire pit. So, like, the combos you get from us is like what you would have if you're around the fire pit with us drinking wine and talking about life. And dorkily enough, like we can either get into technical football or soccer here in the United States, or we can just go off and talk about things that are kind of core values for us. So yeah, you're right. It sometimes it's definitely a stream of conscious, and I don't think our producers ever expect us to talk about half of the stuff they talk about us because I see them in like the little Riverside thing, and they're always like, "Where is she going with that?" I'm like, I actually don't know. I just had a pressing question.
I think it's funny whenever the like the AI show notes pop up and you'll see like where it goes and you're like, "Oh, they talked about this and then they talked about aliens and
I'm gonna go look at the AI notes. I know it's welcome to my Rain Man brain. So that's what I tell people. Like I can tell when I lose people too. I'm like, yeah, let me rewind that.
oh my gosh. No, I love it. I love it. So appreciate you doing that and sharing that with everybody amongst all the other things. So this podcast is about our personal journeys, and I want to dive into how you've evolved through the different chapters in your life and career and that inner drive that keeps you going and breaking barriers, making history. And so
Mm.
you are balancing a lot. I don't know if that's a word to use, but I mean, motherhood, team ownership, broadcasting, law, podcasting. So take us through a day in the life and how you manage all that you're doing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't use the word balance. I've actually eliminated that from my vocabulary.
Let's
There's a
cut it
book.
out.
Yeah,
Let's
let's just gotta
cut
cut
it
it out
out.
because I don't know. There's this book that I read. I was probably I'm trying to think if it was pre or post my daughter. And I think it was just right after her. And so, long story short, like, right, I was refereeing and I was trying to get to the Women's World Cup and I represent the United States on the FIFA side of it as a referee. And, trying to get back from her, I had missed an important tournament on the youth side, which is like your selection. So, you like climb the ladder as a referee and you have to 4 years before the World Cup, you have to kind of be in this group. And I was just trying to your point, balance it all. Trying to figure out how am I a young attorney getting my litigation hours in, right? Proving to the managing partners that I should be there, balancing a brand newborn baby. And even though they have no idea that you exist, because like just in their brains, they don't care who feeds them. They just want to be fed, right? Like balancing the psychology behind that, balancing the pressures of training and when I could train, balancing making sure my body had full nutrients, right? To feed my baby, like balancing the external pressures and internal pressures of the dynamics of a relationship, but then also like the external pressures of people who, because you get nominated every year, who, are putting their eggs in your basket, hoping that you go on and represent the United States and all of this stuff. And it was like so psychologically impacting, right? Where you start having crazy thoughts and you're like, this is not normal, right? This is not normal. I don't need talk therapy. I was like, I need action therapy. And I ended up reading this book called The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller. Funny enough of Keller Realty, but it was one of those things. That book was really, really helpful for me. I remember just like, I'll go off and on plane rides, I just have music and I usually just like, that's my me time where I kind of just write and plan things out, whether it's psychologically, whether it's an issue I'm dealing with and I just need to map it out. And that thing, there's like a couple of myths in that book. And I think it was one of the most liberating things, and actually ended up tearing up my, life plan, because everything had been going according to life until like 28, 29. And it was that thing, like they kept saying like, balance is a myth, right? Like this concept of work-life balance is a myth. And it makes sense because when I did litigation, if I was in trial and it was a week trial or a 2-week trial, it would be like a month leading into that, which was just like crazy time. Then I had the trial and then I would need like 2-3 weeks to reset before I enter. So I then started kind of paralleling all of that stuff with, you're just going to be in counterbalance. You're going to be in extremes at time. That's okay. Just know where that like medium line is, where balance line is, and just know that you'll always find a way to come back to it, but you're not going to always stay in one of those extremes. Just at the end of the day, like, accept that that's going to happen. And I think from like an athletic standpoint and like the endurance fitness component standpoint of it, right, is back to the word training. Like we're all training for something. We're either in season, right, or preseason, or we're in postseason, right? And each of them demand different expectations, different training style, different recovery balance. You can make increases in preseason, right? Postseason's recovery, and in season is maintenance. Once you kind of start paralleling life in that respect, I think it kind of helps you like breathe. And I think for me, one of my biggest things is I love building. Just love building. I love people and I love building and creating things. It's funny enough, my owner asked me that last week. He's like, why do you do everything? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not required to. I don't have to. I don't need to. I want to. But it allows me to just like, that's where I thrive, is in building things and building things that have impact beyond me. And impact people and communities that I love. And at the end of the day, when everyone and the media is so focused on negative and all you see is like, I think I opened up, I was apparently covering US Open Cup, sorry, to my producer yesterday last night, and I was sleeping. An issue happened at 12:30 a.m. in the morning, and you open it up and you're like, oh shoot. But then my next thing on Twitter is like negativity, right? That's either, ice raids or people hitting each other or something. I'm like, what is wrong? Like, there's so much good out there and none of that. Like, I love my Instagram because it's like dad jokes. It's like silly things or, whatnot. But I think the more and more like you kind of continue to build and create things and tell those stories, that's what kind of drives me and drives a lot of the stuff that I do. I know that I can see things before people see them, and that's okay. I just need people around me who can say, I trust that you're building something and let's figure it out. And then when they see it, that to me is what gets me going. As soon as that moment clicks and someone's like, I get it now, you're like, yes. All right, moving on. So you're the yes was something that I kind of always believe in saying yes, because things are so synergetic. Good people find each other. Things click, and I love it when I can connect people to, and I can say, okay, your purpose and goal is this, your purpose and goal is this, especially if it doesn't look like from the piece of paper, from the outside, like something obvious. Those are the best. I think those are the most fun to create with.
Yeah, for sure. So you've helped to build the Tampa Bay Sun from the ground up and leading them to a championship in the first season. How do you think just that your approach in wanting to do this, not needing to step into this, how
Yeah.
has that allowing you just this freedom to be able to build what you want and seeing the success and fruit that comes from that?
I would argue not having fear, right? So it's like, and like fear itself, there's nothing wrong with fear itself, right? Fear usually comes from not having done something in the first place, right? Like I always go back and I think about the times that I was anxious or fearful or had a concern. And it was usually because I was doing something for the first time ever. And rarely in your life do you do something for the first time ever. Like you do in your first 10 years of life and maybe your first 18. But at the end of the day, everything's a building block off of each other. And so I think by not having to do this or not being required to do this, mind you, I've advocated for this. So I'm always a believer too, if I'm going to complain about something, but then if, God gives me an opportunity to do something about it, then it then he did that for a reason. I have to step in there, and because if not, then I'm not allowed to complain about it. And that's kind of the story of my life of how I became a referee too. But I think not having that fear and just knowing at the end of the day, like what was something that I needed. When I finished playing college soccer in 2008, there was no women's professional soccer in the United States at that time for women, which is crazy because our U.S. women's national team is amazing, right? At that point, WPS had folded, which was a second attempt at the women's first division in the United States. WSL hadn't started yet. So for me, it was kind of like I grew up knowing that college was going to be it unless I wanted to go play overseas. And even at that point, you got paid like $5,000 for like 10 months. It was stupid. So it was crazy how like that wasn't an option. And I really am a big believer in options. Like I hate not having options. I think there's always an option, right? Sometimes it's two options, but I always try to create as many options as possible. And I think because of that, stepping into that space is like, okay, one, I've complained about it long enough. Two, right, there is investment in an ownership group that really does believe in this and has a future plan. And it's not just a fun thing to do. They believe in it has huge community impact, but it also is a viable business model with economic impact, right? And that's what you really need is people not to think that women's sports is a charity because it's not. Nothing that you put millions of dollars in realistically is a charity unless you're driving a grant or a fund or anything that you're going into in that respect. But so for me, I think the lack of having any fear because I know what it is that and it's things that I'm not building from scratch. A lot of the things that I'm bringing here with the team is effectively things that already exist in the rest of the world. It's just not been experienced either in the United States or specifically here in Tampa. So for me, it's like I know how to get there now, or I know what I want to get there. Now I just have to figure out the path to get there. And it's going to be a lot of chutes and ladders. I'm going to climb some ladders and I'm going to hit a slide and I'm going to fall, what I thought was less, but then there's going to be another ladder, that I'm going to end up climbing. That's going to be a higher ladder. So I think that lack of fear helps. Like not needing this job helps, but wanting to do this job helps because at the end of the day, it's every day I choose and every day I choose yes. And so therefore every day I walk in wanting to be here. And I think that's a critical point. And that's a critical point I think for anybody is that whether it's work, relationships, et cetera, is every day you wake up and you should make that choice. Yes or no, not an obligation or, you feel like you're tied to it or et cetera. And if you don't wake up with that mindset of saying, I've made the choice to be here, I've made the choice to be in this relationship, or I've made the choice to do X, then yeah, you're going to harbor resentment. And then you're not going to get the most productivity out of yourself from a physical standpoint, emotional standpoint, or spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, it's really good. The power that we have to choose every single day. Such a good reminder, I think, that we can take that power back and it's not up to anybody else and how it is that we show up and how we are showing
But
up.
it's not easy either. So like I said, all of these things are so easy to say.
Totally.
Yeah, and if one day you choose no, that's fine. Then you just got to figure out the way to respectfully say thank you, but no thank you, right? And then to have the grace and the compassion to do so and do so in a proper way. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I struggle with it every day because I choose every
Yeah.
day. But like at the same time, if I've learned that I'm not am going to be choosing to say no, it's like, okay, now how do I do that and do it respectfully at the same time? Because inevitably, anytime I say no, somebody is impacted by that, whether it's feeling like I've said no to them personally, which isn't necessarily the choice. It might just be nobody believes me when I say I don't have time. That I've learned as well too. Like, what's another hour in your day? I'm like, everything, because it's never an hour. That's a lie. But yeah, give yourself grace. I think that was one thing an old business partner used to tell me. Like, there's pros and cons with it, saying being kind to yourself. I'm like, yes and no. But these are one of those places that if you decide to say no, then be kind to yourself and figure out the right way to do so, and just know that someone's going to get hurt, and that's okay. That's for them to figure out.
For sure. You talked about having options and liking to have options.
Mm-hmm.
And there's influence everywhere and we have the power to choose what we consume in that way as well and who
Mm.
influences us in different seasons of our life and along our journey and the decisions that we're making. I want your take on self-trust because that's something that has been coming up a
Mm.
lot in conversations I've been having, whether that's around decision making or setting boundaries or just believing that you can step into that next thing even whenever you're not 100% sure, not knowing what's on the other side of it. So, where has that shown up along your journey? What's your relationship with self trust and how has that evolved over time?
Oh, okay. So I love this because there's like two different parts of my life that really helped me get to the point where I say I will always bet on myself, right? Because, right, it's all these notions in the ref world. And I think other people in their world say it, but we say control what you can control, right? Because the game brings plenty to us that is unexpected. And that's just like the game of life, right? Like you can go in and you can walk in and say, this is what's going to happen. And then something side like hits you out of nowhere and you're like, what the hell, right? But just control what you can control and understand there's a lot of uncontrollables and you can't stress out about that. But like, what I say is I can bet on myself is because I know how I'm going to respond to things. I, know what I'm able to balance. I know my skill set. I know where I'm at my stretching points, right? And if I'm at my stretching points, I know people around me who can help support, or at least I get to know people around me who I can support or ask for. At the same time, you give back to others. Because I just think like energy finds energy. But the two things I think in my life that really kind of taught me that kind of trust in myself thing is the refereeing side of it, because as a referee, you don't get to practice before an important game. Like your practice is an actual game. So coaches don't like to hear when I used to tell them, I was like, hey, like this game is actually a practice. So like this game's important for us. I'm like, I understand, but like I can't get experience until I get experience in a real life game. It's like golf. You can go to the driving range all you want. You can go play the short games all you want, but until you go out into the actual course, you have no idea how to play the game of golf. So kind of the same thing. It's like refereeing was to get to the highest level games. I had to practice in games, and you just build upon those foundations. Like you build upon, hey, in this situation, there's the common themes. Like in this situation, there's the common themes. And even though every context is different, you're pulling from experience, whether it's positive experience or bad experience, that you're like, oh, maybe I should do that a little different. So that when you do make that decision in a game, you're having to make that decision incredibly confident, like in the referee world. And before it was before like video review, where like if I made a penalty decision and it was on ESPN in front of the Rosie Rivers in Portland, like, and I'm getting booed by like 40,000 people, right? It's like I have to be like really confident in my outside language and just mentally really confident and just trust that all my training brought me there for a reason. And it's nice when it is affirmed. So when you don't get it, you're like, ooh, okay, time to learn. But I think that really helped me in the sense of saying like I had to rely for a lot of my life from 10 years old when I started refereeing to like my early 30s, was that everything I had built up to that point, I just had to trust that I had the skill set at that time or enough skill set for that moment. And if I didn't, then I'd go back, I'd release the emotion, but I'd catch the important parts so that next time I wouldn't miss it. And then you just keep building on it. And it's really cool when I train referees because like sometimes I'll give them advice and I'm like, it's really cool that like that was like where you were consciously thinking about something turns into either a habit or routine that you don't think about it and it turns into the subconscious because you're building on something else. So when you're able to go back and reflect, I think that helps with the trust that you are building on building blocks. And like I said, there's very rare times in your 30s and even your 20s, and definitely not in your 40s where you're doing something for the first time with zero abilities or skill sets or institutional knowledge or something that you can build off of. And then I think the other thing was kind of on that trust factor is like just your preparation, pro and con. The lawyer side of it, whenever a client comes and they're like, what should I do? Right. When they're freaking out and someone sends us like at the end of the day, or can I do this? And like, just wait for the cease and desist. So what I mean by that is like in a cease and desist letter. But what I mean by that is understand what is going to be at loss, right? So I can assess that really quickly. Something happens and I look at it and I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? Like, what are all the consequences, intended and unintended, that could potentially happen from this situation? And am I willing to chance that, right? So very rare things in life, especially when you talk about business, like no one's dying for the most part. And if they are, then the answer is obviously no. Not many people are losing millions of dollars on a decision, right? Like there's very few people that can do that. So that being said, that mitigating or managing that risk, I think is really, really important when people are talking about self-trust, because something could go wrong. The answer is, yeah, it can, but what's the worst that can happen? And are you willing to take that potential risk? So there has to be not a full risk aversion, but a level of ability to take risk. Because if you don't ever take risk and you're always waiting for perfection, you're never going to activate and you're never going to move. So sometimes just move. It's probably scarring everyone is like writing a paper for high school or college. Just start the draft. Just start the draft. We research, we get the right products, we get the right stuff, we get ready, we get the right bike to train with. It's just like, screw it. Just go out there. Just start it. Like, just start playing on the golf course with a friend with some high noons and go hit for 9, rounds, right? Just start and understand what the risks are. And if you're comfortable with the risks, then move forward. If you're not comfortable with the risks, then don't move forward.
I love that because I think sometimes what can paralyze us is the needing to know all of the details or figure everything out. And I think sometimes people assume that when they see others doing so much or accomplishing so much that they must have it all figured out, kind of what we talked about at the top of the conversation. So what do you think that people misunderstand about that?
I think you hit on the head, like that everybody knows what they're doing, and or has already the skill set to do it, right? So one of the things, and it was a good mentor of mine coming up in the referee world, Carrie Seitz, and they just nominated me and handed me my FIFA badge. And I remember talking with her one on one, and I was like, they gave me my FIFA badge. I don't think I'm ready for it. Like, I haven't, done this game. I haven't done that game. Like, I don't personally think I'm ready for this. And she's like, by the time they would hand you the badge that you think you were ready for, at the time you're ready for, then it was too late. She's like, every time you level up or every time you do something that's uncomfortable, like it's supposed to be uncomfortable, right? You're supposed to be in the stretch moment. If you receive something and you're overly comfortable, then it was just, then I wouldn't say it's too late. It's just you're supposed to be stretched. So I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. Everyone always looks and says, like to your point, oh, they have it all figured out, or yeah, etc. Like, no, I mean, there's the potential and the skill set, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is there's a difference between potential versus mastery of a topic, and everyone should be able to be judged on potential and given those opportunities to show. And if it doesn't show, then you ask yourself why, and then you kind of reset. But that's where I think where people in a little bit of a crazy and ignorance also kind of works in those people's favor than our lovely type A people who have to cross every T and dot every I. Like, find your friend if you're like that. That's going to tell you to be like, screw it, go for it, and just like the person that just like helps push you, into the water a little bit. And then you're like, okay, that was actually fun, right? Like, find that person that doesn't over push you, but just enough, because right, what is it? The failure to launch is a real thing. And those who, because I've also worked for some clients that are highly successful, and no offense to some past clients, and if you think this is you, then that might be a personal reflection on you if you're listening to this, but they just weren't really smart. I was like, how are you running such a successful company, like based on some of your decisions and thoughts? And then I realized a lot of time is because they just didn't care. They just did it. They just launched. I think, and one of the things, I forgot who I heard this from, so I'm not taking credit for it. It's like, I want to be the dumbest person in a room, right? I want to be surrounded by people that are a hell of a lot smarter than me. And the goal is to create that so that, I'm walking into a room always learning, and always growing. And then once I find myself no longer learning or growing in that room, then either I'm in the wrong room or there needs to be different people in that room, right? But usually it's me being in the wrong room. And that also helps with like the 80-20 principle when you talk about work and stuff like that, right? If you're in a room and you're not learning anything, then it's time for you to not take that space and that place and put somebody else who can learn in it, and you go into another room.
Yeah, it comes back to checking yourself and asking yourself that question, like what is it that you are learning in this space? And if you're finding that it's not, okay, maybe I should shift and surround myself, with people that I can learn from that are smarter than me. And I think that just, yeah, to your point earlier too about just continually stretching yourself and putting yourself in an environment that is uncomfortable. It's hard to get yourself there, but if we have the courage to get ourselves there, we're just going to learn by doing, and that's how you build confidence, by doing. And I love what you were sharing earlier, not having things figured out but just stepping into the thing, and how that builds your confidence even as a referee in the games, in that through that experience.
Yeah,
So
you hit on the head. That's where you build the confidence, is just by doing it. Because I don't know. Anyone who's played, you know what? And if you haven't played golf, it's because you think you have to be a great golfer, by the way. You don't. Everybody sucks out there. Even all those guys who talk like they are incredible golfers. Trust me, I played scrambles with them. Outside of the financial advisors, those guys do, those men and women do play really good golf because that's all they do. But just go. Just go and play.
that's my cue to go play golf.
It
I've,
is. It's
I've
so
had
much
that thought
fun.
because in my competitive nature, I'm like, I don't want to go do something I'm going to suck at, but maybe I
It's going
can.
to drive you nuts, because I could tell people all the time, especially like you right, the sports that you played, right? It's like, and for me, it's like soccer. It's like we're so used to power and speed and movement and etc. Golf is like breathe, slow. Like, I have a watch that's teaching me tempo, and it's like do do do. I'm like, can I swing it? Can I swing it? Can I swing it?
It's
And
why I
then it's
couldn't
like
get into
fast,
yoga because it forces you to just come. But I've
slow
been
down,
trying.
which is like the whole point of yoga. But I'm with you. I'm always like, I love Marina with Atma, and it's like I do need to do that. And sometimes I'm like, why? This is so slow. And mind you, I'm doing all the positions wrong. I take her class because she just comes over and basically manipulates me because I'm comfortable with her like physically taking me and moving me around. I do got to figure out she's off in Greece or whatever, having fun. So when she gets back, but I'm with you. I like sit there and then at the end I'm happy, right? So it's like I'm like, oh, that was really good for my mental state of mind, and then I don't go back because it's too slow. But I think we need that. I think even if it's just once a month, I think I'm gonna. Now you just inspired me. I think once a month, Marina, I'm coming back to THAFMA. I think I'll just go once a month and continue to build little by little.
I'll join you there. That's where we can reunite in the
Where I kind of
movement.
found like that middle was like, okay, I'll go to the athlete class, like the Phoenix one, like that is for athletes. Like for some reason, I was like, that's the only one I'm allowed to go to. So I know it's not, but that's how I mentally got there.
For sure. All right. So, last question. This is the Endurance Diaries. Endurance means something different to everybody, and it continues to evolve, I think, through the seasons that we go through. So, for you right now, what does endurance look like?
I think understanding what I personally need. I feel like I wouldn't say I know what other people need, but I know what there's a need out there for that I can create, that there are people who need that. But I think for me personally, still trying to figure and identify that. Like I said, a lot of things in my life tracked according to my life plan, right? Marriage, baby, law school, MBA, job, this, that. And then when my whole life got like ripped up, and it wasn't even ripped up in a negative way, right? It was just like what my brain thought was the plan. And I'm like, and then trying to be perfect for everybody, right? And trying to make sure everything's done perfectly and everyone's happy and everyone's this and everyone's that. That's why I think the sprint triathlon cancellation really pissed me off, because it was the only thing for me, and I didn't do it. So it's like for me, my endurance is trying to figure out, because a lot of things that I try to do for myself come off to other people as being selfish. And right, is that, and it's very easy to kind of make me feel guilty about that I'm not in dinner in time, right? I'm not around the family enough, right? Because I'm already in extremes with work, right? Just little things like that. So just kind of figuring out like this is okay to do that. So my endurance is just trying to figure that out, and then seeing who will be still standing around and supporting. And it's okay if it's not okay for them, because at the end of the day, like they also have their own needs, right? So I think it's my endurance right now. That might be because I'm getting close to 40. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close to 40. And it's kind of, what did we say? 30, 60, 90. I always mess up her name, but Fonda, I think she like talks about life in 3 different stages, right? First stage, second stage, third stage. And it's like 30, 60, 90 are those stages. They still have some time, but yeah, the big 4-0 is coming up here in 2 years. So for me, it's kind of like
2 years.
2 years.
It's still a while away. It's like, oh, it's coming up next week. It's coming up in 2 years.
It's gonna go into. I thought it was coming up next year, so I kind of saved it a year. But I think that would be my biggest endurance, is figuring out that everything that I was probably trained either by society. To be quite honest, grew up in a very religious family, like a very traditional religious family. So a lot of those things that I thought were requirements to be perfect and to be right, that if I don't do those, that there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with other people either. It just isn't the same. So that's my endurance right now.
Thanks so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here, for taking the time. I appreciate you, and
Yeah.
thankful for your voice.
Of course. No, thankful for you.